Take a minute and think. When was the last time you went without checking, thinking, or looking at your phone? Has it been a while? We live in a time where we are constantly surrounded by technology, and it's becoming progressively harder to live without it. A class survey reported that 50% of us have never gone without using our phones, and over 90% of us said that it's been months since we last went without using our phones. As a full-time student, having a part-time job, and applying to medical schools, I have personally felt the need to constantly be using technology. However, I've worked to find ways to remove myself from technology that I've been required to use, and I've researched heavily into how to balance all the tasks that I have at hand, and I'm sure that you have as well. Today, I want to talk about key ways to help improve our overall health. First, I will describe a habit that you may not realize is impacting your overall health. Second, I will suggest a simple solution to improve your health. And third, I will discuss how much better our lives can be when we apply this solution. Now that I've given us an overview, let's begin by discussing the problem that impacts our health. The problem is that anxiety is at an all-time high in our society. There's a story from Kentucky.com about Christina Smith, a sophomore at Asbury University in Kentucky, who reported feeling progressively worse the busier she got in school. Christina was physically and mentally drained, even without physically exerting herself. Christina went to her phone in order to relax, and this helped initially, but soon it didn't help anymore. That wasn't until Christina changed her habits and found relief in her life. Christina is not the only person who has felt this way. College students feel constantly drained and their grades are suffering. A study from a journal titled Computers and Human Behavior showed a correlation between phone use and GPA. They went on to say that an increased phone use was linked to lower GPA, increased anxiety, and lower life happiness. Another study from Frontier in Psychiatry reported that 40% of students today are addicted to their phones. Anxiety, stress, distraction are not just things we read about, but are things that are happening in our class. Over half of our class reported that they occasionally or frequently feel stressed or distracted from their phones. And over half of the class reported that screen time impacts their overall stress levels. As finals draw near, we have an increased amount of stress, anxiety, as well as screen time. This is all in order to finish the assignments and other tasks that we have to do. Now that we've discussed screen time usage and how it's created a problem with stress and anxiety, let's move on to talk about the solution. Exercise is a common answer to help reduce stress. Research from Mental Health Foundation reported that exercise can increase self-esteem and reduce stress and anxiety. Although exercise is an excellent solution, it doesn't fix the problem with screen time specifically and how it affects our overall stress and anxiety. My solution is to regularly take digital detoxes to allow our brain to relax. A digital detox is when we take a purposeful break from our phones, and this can happen in a variety of ways. The first is to perform a complete detox, which may include completely removing devices for longer periods of times, like weeks or months. A more focused digital detox is another way, and this may include removing certain apps or even reducing the time we use those apps on our phones or other devices. And perhaps the easiest way to perform a digital detox is by taking periodic timeouts or just planned events of when we won't use our phone during the day, such as in the evening times. Digital detoxes allow us to remove unnecessary stresses in our lives. By performing occasional digital detoxes, it will allow our bodies to calm down and remove ourselves from the constant stimulations they receive. WebMD.com stated that when we remove this constant stimulation, we'll reduce our anxiety, stress, and depression. They further add that it will also aid in our sleep. When we reduce our screen time, it correlates to waking up, being rested, getting to sleep faster, which both correlate to lowering our stress levels. Screen time is not a bad thing, but too much of it is. An article from Stanford University shared that not taking sufficient time away from our screens can damage our cerebral cortexes in our brains. This hurts our ability to not only learn, but also use our memory, both of which we need in college. College students desire to be connected, entertained, and productive. And it's hard to be able to feel like we can get away from our phones. While these things are valid, I will refute them in two ways. The first is by turning the tables and presenting how you can actually be more productive with digital detoxes. WebMD.com reported a study that showed that participating in digital detoxes restores cognitive energy, which means increased productivity. When doing a digital detox, you're not missing out on things, but rather you're investing in your own health. Second, I will expose the inconsistencies that you cannot perform digital detoxes and stay entertained and connected. Our class surveys said that 90% of us feel more connected while not using our phones. And 53% of those also added that they felt significantly more connected. Ask yourself, what is your favorite thing to do? My guess is it doesn't include a screen. You may feel like you need advice to be more connected, entertained, and productive, but really, we could all benefit from less screen time. Now that it's clear that a digital detox is worth your time, entertainment, and commitment, let's visualize how this might look in your lives. Picture Keith, who hasn't taken a break from technology in his life, who constantly feels drained the longer they have been in school, who also feels more stressed and unmotivated the longer they move on. Keith progressively feels less connected to himself and others. Keith's cerebral cortex is like a balloon, slowly losing air until it runs out. Keith is so stressed that he burns out, causing bad habits to form, as if they were mold on freshly baked bread. Now that you have visualized Keith's side, consider a more positive side for Emma, who regularly performs digital detoxes. Emma includes putting her phone away an hour before bed into her nightly routine and feels more rested than she ever dreamed. Emma replaced time with her phone and used it to learn a new skill and feels more accomplished because of this. Emma notices an increased performance in school as well as less stress. Comparing these two, it's obvious that Emma's situation is superior to Keith's. Now that you've seen both sides of the story, let's review what we've talked about. Today I've tried to persuade you to regularly use digital detoxes. First, I've described how your health will be impacted with screen time use. Second, performing digital detoxes is the solution you need in order to improve your overall focus and health. And lastly, I described how your life can be better with this solution implemented in your life versus not having it implemented. Even though there are many ways to implement digital detoxes, I challenge you to perform one. Start easy. Remove technology 30 minutes before you go to bed. But be honest with yourself and begin to consider how you use your time and enjoy the benefits from using digital detoxes. Take control of your time. Choose today when you will and when you won't use technology. I promise it will not. I promise you will not be disappointed.